Hi V, hi everyone else, and welcome to Gaping Chasm. Today I'm doing a video that I'm really excited to do. I had the idea a couple weeks ago. I'm really excited that I'm actually filming it today. And that is that I'm going to be ranking every single Nickelodeon show that I grew up watching. So this is going to include like the preschool type shows, live action cartoons, and it's a pretty long list. It's not every single like Nickelodeon show that was on while I was watching Nickelodeon actively, but it is a lot of them. I went through and I think I've gotten all of them. I'm sure I've missed a couple shows that I did watch, but I'm going to be ranking them, and I'm going to be ranking them based on my impressions that I still have today, based like the impressions that I've retained from when I was little and watching them. I'm trying not to let my current thoughts on them color it at all. There are a few shows on this list that I have a greater appreciation of now that I'm older, so I'm trying not to let that color my thoughts because I thought this would be fun to do without all this hindsight. So I'm going to be looking at my computer quite a bit because I am going to be actually ranking them on tierlist.com, which you'll see throughout this video, and I'm also going to be reading my notes. These are all definitely my opinion, and it's not even my full opinion. It's my opinion I had when I was between the ages of like 5 and let's say 15 as the age range, and it's also not really the value of the show. If you liked any of these shows, tell me about it. I love hearing about what shows people love, but some of these shows were not for me. Some of them were and some of them were not. Just looking at it, it looks like not every image actually loaded. We'll see, and I hope it works. Oh man, I hope it works because I can't tell which ones didn't load. Okay, so we're gonna go in no particular order. First up is Cat Scratch. I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. In my original notes I had it in D tier, but it wasn't that bad of a show. It was very middle of the road type thing. Yeah, I don't remember the plot so much except that it was like really goofy. I know there were 3 characters, and I think the black cat was like the leader, smart one / also the asshole character. I think the really tall one was the dummy. My memory on it is really fuzzy. I do remember enjoying the episodes, but not necessarily flocking to the TV when it was on. I also vividly remember, I think they were McDonald's toys that they were putting out at one point of the Cat Scratch characters, and I had one of the toys for a very long time. But yeah, it was very middle of the road show. Nothing great, nothing awful. For a while, I, for some reason, thought it was a spin-off of Cat Dog, which it's not. It's just also about cats. Okay, the next show is Mr. Meaty, and that, without a doubt, goes in the just the worst category. I think it is probably the most disgusting show that ever aired. I already dislike that medium of storytelling where it's like claymation / puppets. It gives me just the creeps and it always has, and even to this day I have a hard time watching claymation stuff. I'm a little better with puppets now, but for the most part I still kind of hate that as well. And Mr. Meaty was gross. Everything about it was gross. Just everything about it was gross. I don't even need to like extrapolate. I get a little nauseated thinking about that show if I think about it too long. And I avoided it like the plague when I was a kid. It was awful. Awful show. Awful show. So next up is True Jackson VP. This was a fun show. I really loved the concept, but it is going in C tier because it was another show that I just did not flock to watch. I feel like I saw a couple episodes and then it just seemed to disappear from air. It was really definitely a cute show. I liked the characters, I liked the concept, but nothing stuck with me enough that I was like, I need to go back and watch it, and I want to watch it all the time, or I want to be True Jackson or anything. So yeah, C tier for this. Okay, the next one is Chalk Zone, and this is another one I kind of debated whether it's going to be C tier, D tier, or just the worst. I ended up going with D tier. I think it was probably a neat concept, but I was really creeped out by it. I didn't enjoy it. I rarely sought I never sought it out, but it wasn't like a bad show. It wasn't something that I would like hate to watch. If it was on and I was bored, I would definitely watch it. This, like True Jackson VP though, I don't really remember it being on for very long. I feel like I watched a couple episodes here or there, would see the commercials, and then it kind of disappeared from my life. So it's fine. It just, I didn't like it. Just wasn't my cup of tea. I also really dislike the animation, I think, for some reason. Looking back, it's very cool, or not very cool, but it's pretty cool how the chalk looks. I didn't enjoy it when I was a kid. Okay, one of my favorite shows, growing up. Ned's Declassified. Ooh, that's actually going in A tier. I loved this show. I feel like I didn't watch it enough. It was one of those shows that I thoroughly enjoyed and still look back at, and I'm like, that was a good show. I think the concept was really fun. I remember a part of it is like the Ned's Declassified Survival Guide is like a book or whatever, or a notebook, and I really wanted that just in my life. I think I tried making my own version of it a couple times, some with like Ned's own advice and then some with my advice. I'm sure I could probably dig up I probably have a notebook full of it. I also the characters were fun. It was a really solid show, and the janitor, I can't remember his name, I loved him. He was like my favorite character. I used to love his relationship with the main characters. I thought it was really great to have like the janitor be the sort of mentor, even though he's not like the smartest, sageliest, I guess. I remember my parents even told me, they're like, if a janitor ever tries to be that close of friends with you, maybe don't. They were just worried I would like interact with strangers. Then we have Winx Club, and I'm sorry, I keep having issues. I really liked Winx Club. It was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid because it has that like magical girl aspect. I even had some of the dolls, although I'll admit I preferred the animal companion toys that came with the dolls. The show itself is a lot of fun, although it does have kind of sparse animation that even at the time I was like not a huge fan of. It just looked very underdone compared to other shows, but like I said, I loved the concept. I really liked the characters. I was annoyed by the characters though. I'm trying to, like, even the other day when I was putting my notes together, I was trying to explain what annoyed me, and I think it was that it wasn't just like the regular elements. There was like a techno fairy character like that just bothered me as a kid. I was really into the 4 elements, so, or 5 if you do like energy as well, so I think it just annoyed me a lot, which is a really stupid complaint. I also feel like it never really ended. I think with this show, I could be totally wrong, but my memory of it was they aired it in like episodes, and then a couple years later actually put the episodes together and aired them as like movie type things. And I think I preferred the movie type things, even though I was a little older at the time. Now I'm not 100% sure if that's actually how it was, but that's what I remember it being like. Okay, our first S tier, Danny Phantom. Oh my goodness. This show was my jam. I loved it so much. I still love this show to this day. Danny Phantom is one of the shows that just kind of forged me as a storyteller and like just helped shape my imagination. The concept behind it is awesome. The episodes themselves were individually amazing, as well as the overall story arc. I mean, I love ghosts when they're done in like this way. I also love the characters. Sam and Tucker, I share a name with Sam, but Sam and Tucker were great side characters. Danny was great. His sister was really interesting. All the characters were super dynamic. Even the villain, like, you had very complicated feelings regarding everything. The stakes were really high. There was a lot of angst, which was definitely a selling point for me. And the movies were really dope. They took things to like extreme levels, and it was serious and really, really good. I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen the show, but oh man, I would love to rewatch and just enjoy the show all over again. I did even have on my original Game Boy, I had a Danny Phantom video game that I was obsessed with, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun to play. I don't remember the plot or anything, but it was really hard for like 11-year-old me. So it was, I mean, that's a mark of a good show. Yeah, Danny Phantom is one of the best cartoons out there, if you ask me. Okay, so next we've got Rugrats. And this was I mean, I've said this a couple times now. But yeah, it was another one that was difficult for me to rank. I'm giving it a B tier because I think the iconicness of it kind of helps. At the time I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if I appreciated it all the way. I did really enjoy it. I especially love the Rugrats movies. I would say those are better than even the show itself. I think when I was a kid, my thing with it is just it wasn't one of my favorites. I don't know, I think I just found them, I think mostly my problem was Angelica, let's be honest. Looking back, she's great, but when I was a kid, I was thoroughly annoyed with her and hated her, and she kind of became the template for things I hated in characters and people in general. But I did really like the show. It was a lot of fun when I was a kid. I always wanted to go on adventures like all the Rugrats were doing. And one thing that I distinctly remember really adoring was just the family relationships between them. It was just really great family units. When Chucky gets his sister, like that's a great relationship and a great family unit. Tommy and his brother, like it works really well, and that stuck with me a lot as a child and even today. All right, so Dora the Explorer, I'm putting it in B tier. Originally, I think I had it ranked in A tier, but as a kid, like I loved Dora. Who didn't love Dora? But I didn't really like the character of Dora. I liked the side characters. I loved the map. I loved Backpack. Backpack was like what I wanted to grow up to be. I'm not gonna lie. And I liked the adventures and the mystery, and I loved that you could like talk to the TV. That was like definitely my jam. I still talk at the television a lot. Dora made me think that they could hear me when I scream at them. But yeah, I don't know if it was like A tier material. It just didn't reach that pinnacle of I would flock to it. Like even as a small child, I don't remember being like, oh, I gotta go watch Dora now. But I did really enjoy it, and if it was on, I was always glued to the television. I feel like there was always marathons going on, and yeah, those were a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I never really bought like Dora merch. I think I actually bought like Backpack at one point though. My parents bought, I was like 7, so it wasn't my money. Okay, so Tak and the Power of Juju. I really didn't like this show. I would avoid watching it. I don't really remember the plot of it. I wasn't a big fan of jungle shows like ever, so I think that might have been part of it. I really hated the character design. I hated how they looked. I hated how they acted. I hated them. I feel like there was also like a video game or something that went along with it that was like semi-popular, but I hated it. It wasn't as gross as Mr. Meaty. Like Mr. Meaty truly deserves a category all its own, but Tak is something I would stay away from, and luckily I don't think it was on very often or for very long. All right, another S tier show is gonna be Drake and Josh. I loved this show. I still love this show. It's still just like utterly iconic, but I loved this show so much. Just off the top of my head, if we're not gonna be like the characters, the plot, all that, I loved the humor. I loved the sets, particularly the bedroom and the movie theater. I loved everything that happened at the movie theater. Those plots were great. Just, oh my god. And it was like wacky in a way that you're like, how is this a show? Like Josh runs over Oprah in an episode. I don't know how that reached in and like touched upon my absolute sense of humor, but it did. And Drake and Josh is amazing, and we deserve a companion to see them today, because I would love to see like the further adventures of Drake and Josh. It was so good. Oh my goodness. Just I was always laughing. I much preferred Drake. I think everyone did. The theme song is iconic. Like, oh god, everything about the show was like perfect. Absolutely perfect. 2 S tiers in a row, because next up is the Backyardigans. And you might be curious, you're like, Sam, why are you putting the Backyardigans in the S tier? Well, do you remember the music? Because the music in the Backyardigans is what children's music wishes it could be. They were full-on rock stars, amazing songs. I had the CD of a bunch of them, and I would just play it on repeat. I loved the music. It was the best. I also love the concept that they were like backyard neighbors, and they would go on adventures, and I believe they crossed over into each other's yards, and that's how the adventures would like start, or something like that. I just thought that was really cute. And I think every episode also ended on like them getting snacks, which is goals. That's just goals. Let's be real. Okay, we're gonna do El Tigre. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm giving that the rank of D tier. Originally it was gonna go bottom of the barrel, but I didn't really hate it that much. I just disliked it. I think I just found everyone in it annoying. I also strongly disliked the art style. There's not much I can say about the show except that if it was on, I really wouldn't watch it. I would try to find something else. I didn't hate it, like I remember very little of the plot, which means I probably didn't watch very much at all. So like Tak and the Power of Juju, I don't think it was around for very long. I think both shows were actually on around the same time as well, but it didn't leave any sort of impression except that I disliked it. It's quite possible that it reminded me of that Jack Black film Nacho Libre, which I also hate. Maybe that's why I didn't like El Tigre. So The Mighty Bee, I'm putting it in C tier. It's a show that I remember having issues with like the voices of the characters, but in general liked them and in general liked the show. It was something that I don't think lasted for very long, and it was something that I wouldn't go out of my way to watch. If it was on, I would watch it, and if it wasn't on, I wouldn't miss it. Again, another one, I think this one, El Tigre, and Attack and the Power of Juju are the three that left the least amount of impact on me, but I didn't really like, I didn't dislike this as much as the other two. I think I enjoyed the characters and probably found them more relatable than in the other two. Okay, Fanboy and Chum Chum. I'm gonna put it in just the worst. I feel like I shouldn't hate on it that much, but my memories of this show involved the characters shrieking and screaming and being very loud and chaotic and having a lot of energy, and I didn't enjoy that. And that's pretty much it. I don't think there was anything I did enjoy. It has a style of animation that I didn't like either at the time. Fanboy I think is the taller one, and he kind of always reminded me of a ripoff Sheen from Jimmy Neutron, which I didn't appreciate either. Go Diego Go. I'm gonna put that in A tier. I don't know if I actually liked it better than Dora the Explorer, but I think I did. I loved I was just saying I didn't like jungle shows, but I don't know if Go Diego Go counts because they dealt with animals from all over, and I loved that. I loved the animals. I was a big animal kid. Most of the books I read were about animals, helping animals and stuff, and I think for a while I wanted to be a vet and everything. I full on went through that phase, and then after that phase I think I was like a horse girl phase. But I loved Go Diego Go because of the animals. I loved that there was like technology involved as well, and that's what you were kind of learning about, like animal and the earth more than just Spanish, which was like Dora was teaching. Yeah, looking back, I don't think it's as good a show, but that's not what we're ranking right now. So yeah, Go Diego Go is gonna get the A tier while Dora is stuck in B tier. I loved that it was a spin-off. Even as a kid, I was obsessed with spin-offs and expanded universes, and this fed into that. Alright, and then actually a similar show, The Wild Thornberrys. Gonna put it in B tier, I think. I didn't like the animation a lot. I didn't like the animation, I didn't like the siblings that much, but like Go Diego Go, it's another show about animals, and I loved that. I loved that she could speak with animals. I loved that it was a family on an adventure type thing. It really was something I enjoyed. But yeah, I think the animation was a big thing for me. I didn't like looking at it necessarily. I do love, I feel like they had a movie to wrap up this show, or at least like an extended season finale, and I remember that being very like moving and heartbreaking for me to watch, because I believe, and I could totally be making this up, but I believe at the end of the show she loses the ability to speak with animals, and that just absolutely got me as just like monumental. It's either that or that's like the plot of the movie. I don't remember. But yeah, I remember feeling like monumentally moved by that plot point. So yes, it definitely was a show with a lot of heart and depth, and is one of the shows that I think, at least when I look back and think about Nickelodeon animation, it's one of the shows that I think did a lot of work for making the channel what it is. Another show that definitely did that is Hey Arnold, but I'm putting that in C tier. It was a show I just didn't get when I was watching. I probably started watching it around the tail end of its run, and was definitely watching majority reruns. It might have actually been finished before I was really consuming television. Like I said, I didn't get it. The characters were fun. I have really vivid memories of two particular episodes. One is, and I'm sorry I don't remember the characters' names, but where the female love interest, Helga? Is that her name? I think it might be Helga. Where Helga has like a shrine to Arnold in her closet, and I remember that really vividly. And I didn't hate it. I actually kind of like vibed with it even then. But yeah, I remember that episode very vividly. I also remember the episode where Arnold's grandfather is sick, or he thinks he's sick and he thinks he's going to die, and it's like a curse on the family that the men always die at a certain age, and he's like coming up to that age or something. And I remember that episode being very impactful on me storytelling wise, because then he doesn't die and it's sort of like this, it's a happy ending, but it is also really tragic. And actually I think that's a good way to explain the show. It's a happy enough show, but it's got a very tragic undercurrent. I also think there's an episode where they are like looking up at the stars or looking for like Halley's Comet or something. Okay, I'm gonna, you know what? It's going up to B tier. And here's why. I have so many vivid memories of it now that I'm looking back and like thinking about it so actively that it left a bigger impact than I thought it did. And the episodes had a much stronger grasp on my psyche than I thought they did. So B tier for Hey Arnold. B tier. Alright, so next is Victorious. I'm giving it B tier. I thought a lot about this. It kind of swam in the realm of A tier, B tier, and C tier. And I didn't just like cut in the middle and decide B tier was where it would go, because that was the middle of the three. But I think what it came down to was I only really liked 2 of the characters, maybe 3. We'll say I really liked 3 of the characters. I found Tori really annoying and spoiled. Sometimes I got confused over simple things in the show. That was definitely just a me problem, but it affected the way I watched it. I did love the music, and the performances in the show were top tier. Some of the best, like rivals decom level musical numbers and stuff. But that being said, I never really got too deep into the plot. It wasn't something that I felt I had to watch every single day. Oh, you know what? 4 characters. I really liked 4 characters, and I am not gonna remember their names. Oh, I know Jade, Beck, Kat, and the 4th character whose name I can't remember. I think he was like the best friend character. He was like the cool, chill guy character, although Beck was kind of that as well. I'll add the character name somewhere. But I never really got too deep into the plot. I think because I didn't like Tori that much. She just, yeah, came across as really spoiled and shrieky. An iconic moment from like my favorite episode that I would rewatch was the one where Kat kept ordering from the Sky Mall catalog. I was obsessed with that episode. Don't know why. I do love shopping now, but I don't know why I was so enamored with that. So this next one, I don't know if people are going to be super familiar with. I think it was a show imported from Canada. I think it was one of those shows where they aired like 5 episodes a day or something, and just kind of like aired them a bunch. The show is House of Anubis, and I'm gonna give it the A tier ranking because I loved this show. I'll be honest, the acting was horrible, but the plot was top tier. It's a mystery, secret society, boarding school type plot, and the new kid, I think she's American, goes to like this British boarding school and replaces like a student who went missing at this house, the House of Anubis, and there's this huge mystery, there's a huge cast. I was kept on my toes the entire time. It is an amazing show. Don't know if it held up, but it really was good. I've always been a big fan of boarding school stories, and I'm always a big fan of secret society, mystery type stories as well. So this was like the perfect mixture of them both. And because they were marathoning it, I could just like sit in front of the TV and watch a bunch of them. I also think that when it was airing was the first time we had TiVo ever, so we could actually record them and I could keep rewatching them when I wanted. So that was also a big deal for me. Zoe 101, definitely also A tier. First of all, loved the school they all went to. Second of all, loved Zoe. Third of all, loved her key. Like, honestly, Zoe 101 was just a pretty great show, and I loved it. I loved the characters, I loved the plot. The like romance that was like the center point of it was fantastic. Yeah, it was so good. Another show whose theme song is just absolutely iconic. And coming up right next to Zoe 101 is iCarly. This show was ahead of its time. Another show that I loved everything. It doesn't reach the S tier because it's not something that I think I would like. I don't know, it's not S tier material, but oh my god, it's so good. Another show that kind of like Hey Arnold has a lot of heart to it. All the characters were very real even when they were doing goofy, ridiculous things. It was also a show that had such a big like world to it. Like there was a lot of sets. It a lot of context that built up through the seasons and the episodes, and it never felt too clunky or clogged down. It seemed to always have a good grasp on what was real and what the mythology of the show was and how it worked. Also with the concept of, you know, iCarly having like a web show, that worked really well at that time, and like I said, is really ahead of its time. It was great. I was always laughing when I was watching it. This one, I think I'm gonna annoy a lot of people with where I place it. Invader Zim is going in just the worst. I hated it. I found it gross. I found it obnoxious. I avoided it. I like the merch that is like sold at Hot Topic and stuff, but I've tried in like my adult life as well to give it a chance, and I can't. It's not a show for me, and it never was, and it's kind of just the worst. Okay, Jimmy Neutron. Putting it in B tier. I feel like Jimmy Neutron was one of the like 3 shows I would watch the most of. It was Jimmy Neutron, Fairly Odd Parents, and SpongeBob, and of those 3, Jimmy Neutron was my least favorite, in part because of the animation. I think actually that was it. I in general liked the show a lot. I loved Sheen. He was fantastic. He was funny, even though he was a character with a lot of energy. It worked really well in the show. I think just in general the show works really well and tells good stories. Also, Goddard was great. One of the best TV dogs. Let's be real. But yeah, it just wasn't a show that I still like think of too often or anything. Like I don't think, oh, Jimmy Neutron was the best. The episode where Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents cross over and they go into each other's art styles is, though, one of the best things to ever happen on television. Okay, next up is Max and Ruby, and I'm gonna put that in B tier. Yeah. This show was really charming. I hated Max, but I loved Ruby. I loved their faces. Like sometimes they wouldn't speak, they would just like wiggle their like mouth and nose area because they're bunnies, and that was like a lot of expression, and it was just really cute. It was just a really cute, really charming show, and I feel like it's one that when I was sick I would watch a lot of it, and it just was a very soothing show as well. Next up is My Life as a Teenage Robot, and I'm gonna put that in C tier. Side note, and completely unrelated, I for some reason thought this was a Disney Channel show. It's not, but I thought it was. I liked it. There's one episode in particular that just really disturbed me. Like otherwise the show was really good and it would probably be in B tier if not for this episode. Now I don't remember the exact details, but it was something along the lines of she either had a virus or and was going to be shut down, or was like being controlled by the virus or something, and it upset me on such a level that I can't watch the show without thinking about it. There's a similar episode of Teen Titans which also I can't really watch the show without thinking about it. But this one disturbed me a lot more. Yeah, it is a show that I loved the concept of, though. I think it's really cute, really fun concept, and I had a lot of blast watching it. Alright, going into D tier, we have Penguins of Madagascar. Sure, it's a fun show, but the movies are so much better, and the penguins are not even my favorite parts of those movies. So yes. I also feel like even watching, every single episode was more or less the same thing. There wasn't enough of an overall plot to keep me going with it. Going into S tier, and I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, is SpongeBob SquarePants. This show is just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Yeah. It's still on today, which is incredible, and maybe a bit zombie-ish. Maybe it shouldn't be on anymore. But even as a kid, I adored it. The musical numbers, like the one where he ripped his pants, I would sing around and memorize. Oh my god. Just iconic. Even then I would quote it everywhere, and I think sometime in like middle school or early high school I even told someone, I was like, and I'm pretty sure SpongeBob is like the Shakespeare of our generation, and I can't really explain that. And you know what, and people laughed at me. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you know what, I'm right. It's like Shakespeare in the way that it's like in our shared cultural psyche, and people of a certain age can reference it and it means so much more than like it does in context. You know. But yes, I loved SpongeBob then as much as I do now, so definitely S tier. Another one going into S tier is gonna be The Amanda Show. This show is probably the best variety show that ever aired. No, I don't take criticism. It was legitimately funny. The whole like bit where she's like stuck on a hot air balloon. It's so funny. It's just a really good show. There were so many good parts. There were so many good actors. It was fantastic. Going into A tier, we have The Fairly Odd Parents. Another show that I loved and probably would have kept in S tier if, even when I had been watching it, it started getting to be a lot by the end. So yeah, I loved this show. I loved the concept. I loved the characters. I loved the episodes. I even, speaking of characters, I even had named my dog after Cosmo because great character right there. Something else that Fairly Odd Parents did fantastically were their movies. So there's the one with like the Golden Wish or whatever it is. I don't remember. Oh, the muffin with the wish muffin or whatever it was. That one is like a top tier film, as well as the Wishology, which some of the best television, not gonna lie. Wishology is where the show should have ended though, because like after that point it kind of went off the rails, but a really solid show up until that point. It's not S tier material because of that basically. Alright, Cat Dog. Putting that in C tier. Originally when I was making my notes, for some reason I had an A tier. I don't really agree with that now. I don't know why I thought that then, literally yesterday. But Cat Dog is a fun show, super inhumane concept, but a fun show and I really enjoyed it. I really liked, like I said, I was a big animal fan and I loved when the animal characters were like the main characters, and Cat Dog definitely delivered on that, even if it was like not a real animal and it was a weird animal thing. But otherwise I don't really remember the plot. It didn't stick with me enough to have left a mark like that. Okay, Naked Brothers Band. I'm putting it in D tier. Originally I had it in just the worst because I disliked it. I disliked the characters, I disliked the plot, I disliked everything about that show, and I specifically hated the commercials for the show. Couldn't explain that if you asked me. But yeah, I just disliked it, but it wasn't like egregious or anything. It just was not my cup of tea basically. So Tough Puppy. I'm gonna put that in D tier as well. It wasn't a show that I was, nothing I watched a lot of, but I watched enough of it to kind of know it just wasn't for me. I didn't really like the concepts. I didn't really like the characters, specifically the female character lead. I was not a fan of. But I don't remember enough about it to extrapolate beyond all this. I don't think I watched that many episodes. Wonder Pets. This show is really cute and really fun, and I'm gonna put it in B tier. I loved the concept. I actually liked that they mixed. It wasn't like completely animated. It was, or if it was animated, it looked like realistic enough that it wasn't like animated looking, if that makes sense. I love that it was like classroom pets saving the day. I thought it was really cute. I loved the little mysteries and adventures they went on. It just was a really cute, really charming show. Kind of similar to Max and Ruby in that way. Okay. Next up we have All Grown Up. I'm gonna put that in B tier. No, you know what? I'll put it on A tier. Okay, so the camera died, but I was so close to finishing. I'm so sorry about this, but you're just going to have my voice and the screen of the tier ranking for this, and then I'll film an outro video after I edit, so I'll probably be in different clothes for that. So apologies. But yeah, we're gonna finish real quick. So Rugrats All Grown Up, I enjoyed a lot more than even the original Rugrats. I liked that the characters are older. I liked the plot points a lot more. And yeah, I mean, there's not much else to go on. I don't know if I found it more relatable or something, but yeah, I much preferred All Grown Up to Rugrats itself. Next up we have As Told by Ginger. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I actually have a pretty large respect for the show looking back, but at the time it was not a show that I loved in particular. I liked it well enough. I liked the introduction where we get to see like Ginger's room and her collection of horses. Like I said, I had a horse girl phase. But yeah, I didn't connect too strongly with any of the characters in particular, and yeah, I did really like the little brother, and I actually strongly remember the lice episode because the mom was a nurse and she wasn't worried about the brother getting lice because he was dirty all the time and they like clean hair. Like, that lesson stuck with me. But yeah, I liked it well enough, but I didn't love it. And I wouldn't really seek it out. It just kind of existed. Next up, we have the final show to make it into S tier, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender. This show is the greatest animated show ever to air ever, possibly the greatest television show ever to air ever, and I thought that even at the time. So yeah, nothing else to really say there. It's literally the best thing you'll ever watch in your entire life. Next we have Back at the Barnyard. I'm gonna put this in B tier. I really liked this show. The plot wasn't anything special, the characters weren't anything special, but it kept me busy, is the long and short of it. Watching it was a time killer, and the same way I'll kind of mindlessly watch YouTube videos now is how I watched Back in the Barnyard. Also, I'm pretty sure the lead is like a male cow, but he has udders, so I guess Nick said trans rights. Then we have Big Time Rush, putting that up in A tier. I don't remember the show. Well, no, I remember the show. I loved the music, I loved the band, I loved the plot. I pretty much loved everything about this show. I was totally obsessed for like the first season, but then it went on, hiatus as shows do, and I could not be bothered to give it any more time in my life. After the hiatus, I was just kind of done. But for that season, I was absolutely in love with it, and their music still rocks, not gonna lie. Last but not least, we have Blue's Clues, and 100% Blue's Clues was the OG obsession for me. I don't remember it 100% being obsessed, but my parents know. They tell me about it. I loved the dogs, obviously. It was another show where you could talk to the television and feel like you were interacting, so I loved that. And yeah, I mean, the show is so wholesome, and I'm glad that it's back for a new generation of kids to enjoy.
Alright, this video has been a ride. I truly did not expect to have to film the outro on a completely different day in a completely different location, so I am really sorry about that. At this point I have finished editing everything, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, even though it was a surprisingly difficult video to film. Like, real talk, I think my brother came in my room like 3 or 4 times while I was filming it and had questions about things, so I had to keep taking pauses to do that, and then my camera ended up dying with like 4 minutes left to film, so that was really great. But yeah, like I said, I'm really happy with how it has turned out, regardless of all these blips. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. And if you agree with some of my thoughts, if you disagree with some of my thoughts, if you want to do your whole ranking on your own, let me know. You, especially V, I'd love to see your take on like the Nick shows you grew up watching. I also want to do something similar with the Disney Channel shows and the Cartoon Network shows and even the PBS shows that I grew up watching, but it is going to be a while before I get to them. The next couple videos that are gonna be put on here, I'm really excited for. They're about one of my favorite shows growing up, and I'm really excited to share my love for this show with everybody, and I'm really proud of all the work that I've been putting into them as well. Yes, thank you for watching. Thank you for partaking in the craziness that was me ranking every single Nickelodeon show that I grew up watching, and I hope you are having a great day. Goodbye V, goodbye everyone else. I'm gonna go have lunch.